Kevin, are you too shy or are you just not ready to record yet?
We got clocks.
All right. Okay.
That was painful.
Whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
Great. Whatever the people want to see.
Right.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah. Well, Sunset Rewind, Summer Series 2025 again, joined by Greg Biggins today, national recruiting analyst for 247 Sports, contributes to Fox Sports, podcasts such as The Bald-Faced Truth with John Canzano, and also CBS Sports. Greg, thank you so much for being here today. It is truly an honor and a privilege to have you here.
Again.
So, how's it going over at 247 Sports? What's the latest?
Yeah, no, everything's good. Yeah, life is good. Nice shout out for John Canzano, by the way. Gave him a little love. I love that. Love going on his show. He's a recruiting guy for sure. So, no, I mean, right now it's kind of almost like the lull coming up, kind of called the summer lull. There's still commitments flying off the board, but this is probably the one time where camps are kind of done, 7-on-7s are done.
July.
Got a couple weeks before fall camp gets going, so it's kind of the one peaceful time is late July, early August, then it gets wrapped up again.
So talk about your background a little bit. Where did you grow up, and how did you get to the point where you are at today?
Yeah, so I'll try to give Reader's Digest version. So I'm a local guy, Huntington Beach guy. Went to Ocean View High School.
Todd Norman,
yep, year ahead of me. I was class of 90, he was 89. Went to Golden West, played soccer for 2 years. Went to Fullerton, was going to play there. Just at that point in time, I was burnt out, not good anymore. And so ended up coaching volleyball at my alma mater, Ocean View High School again, more love for the Seahawks. So ironically, I played everything growing up, baseball, everything, and football was the one sport that I kind of gravitated a little bit toward. And there was this magazine called Cal High Sports, which was pretty well known, and there was
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yep,
Remember that magazine well.
And Mark Tennis was the editor, and still a good friend of mine to this day. But one night I was, coming home from probably watching a high school game, and the coach John Katera, Mighty 690, right? He did that Friday night show where he's just rambling off all the different scores and who won and who did what. And then one night he had a guy from Cal High Sports on talking football recruiting. And I was listening to the guy, and people would call in and say, hey, how's USC doing? He'd be, oh, yeah, USC leads for this guy. This guy's going to trip in. What's Darrell Russell going to do? Oh, I think Darrell Russell. And it was, I would just sit there and listen. I go, this is the coolest thing in the world. And so I just wrote this guy a letter, said, hey, I'm interested. I'd love to. At that point in time, I had my degree from Fuller. I was a kinesiology major, was doing a personal training. My dream job at that time was to be like a strength coach for like a big time college program, which is almost impossible unless you know someone who knows somebody. But
who knows somebody.
Who knows somebody. So that was the background. And then he wrote me back or called me, and I started as an unpaid intern for 8-9 months, and all of a sudden the company, again, complete God thing. The company kind of just blew up, went from Cal High to student sports, kind of went national, started doing the Nike football training camp, started doing Elite 11.
So what were you doing as an unpaid intern? Like, what was your day-to-day activity?
Yeah, people laugh when I say it. So back then, now somebody recruits, it's all over Twitter. It's like, hot the presses. Back then, there was no internet, and so again, probably gonna laugh. It was 900 phone numbers. So you would dial this 900, whatever the number was, and it'd be like $1.59 a minute. And if you want to know about Virginia Tech, you would call this number, and there would be somebody, me, who would record this message on how Virginia Tech or Purdue or Ohio State or whoever.
So each team had its own specific number?
Each team had its own number.
So like when you called it, it'd be like, for Notre Dame, press 1. For Ohio State, press 2.
Exactly.
Which team had the most hits?
Notre Dame by far.
Oh, really?
Notre Dame was big time.
Okay.
Yeah. West Coast wise, USC probably had the biggest brand at that time. But it's just kind of like how football is today. The Big Ten and
how many
SEC
different schools were you covering originally?
So we were probably covering. God, football was different back then, so it wasn't as big. So we'd try to just cover like the 40 big markets.
Okay.
West Coast wise, obviously SC, UCLA, Cal, Stanford,
right.
The Oregons and Washingtons of the world. And like I said, the bigger schools, the Bamas, Ohio States,
Texas,
Texas A&M, LSU. Yeah, name a school, right? And so you would try to talk real slow, which for me was hard. Because again, you're trying to keep them on the phone as long as you can. $1.59 a minute, right? So you're trying to talk slow.
Remember the psychic?
Yeah, it was something.
So it was
similar.
A recording you were making?
So I'm recording this message, and then you'd hit live, and then at the very end you'd try to like tease something. Hey, so it'd be a Tuesday, right? Hey, Friday, we got breaking news. Notre Dame is going to be getting a big-time commitment. Can't tell you what position, can't tell you where he's from, but Friday. And so between then and Friday, you're trying to, you better come up with some news, right? And then if nothing happened, you'd say, hey, the kid changed his mind. Never a kid didn't change his mind. There never was a kid, right? But you would just hope between, the time you teased it, something big would break.
Well, how did you get your info? I mean, like you said, there's no internet.
Yeah,
how are you getting
yeah.
that?
No, so we'd have like this huge database of the top kids, and we would cold call kids, and people, started to understand what football recruiting was about, and so it was promotion for them. But again, at this point, because there was no internet, it was hard, right?
Sure.
Were you using like fax machines to get information to other people?
Not fact. There was fax machines that existed back then, but no, it was mostly, we would call high school coaches or call the players themselves and say, hey, what's so-and-so doing? Has he taken any official visits yet? Yeah, he's got 5 trips. Here's the dates to these schools. That'd be like gold. So then you go and
because now you got 5 different schools.
Yeah, all 5 of those schools. Hey, you know when he's going to commit? Hey, he's going to commit probably in 2 weeks. Boom, that's out there. And then when news would break, and then so that was my start. And then, like I said, all of a sudden, a company out of Washington said, hey, and there was somebody doing other magazines at that time. There was a Super Prep magazine. There was Tom Lemon did, God, I forgot what Tom did.
Was there Athlon then? Or?
Athlon wasn't really, there was Athlon covered mostly college football.
Mostly college, right.
But there was a Prep Star. There was a Blue Chip Illustrated. I mentioned Tom Lemming, Alan Wallace. They all had these magazines, and people from different parts of the country were doing something similar. So this guy had this idea, hey, I want to have a company called Rivals.com, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to get an internet website, and we're going to try to get the best of the best from each region. This guy's going to cover the Midwest. You're going to cover the Southeast. We're West Coast-wise. We're doing the Nike football training camps, and that was another way we got information because through the camps, every kid that went to the camp, we got their information, and we were able to call them up. But all that testing data, the 40s, 20-yard shuttle, vertical jump, we had all that information, height, weight.
You were literally on the ground floor of this.
Yeah. So we were able to we put all that information on this website. Everyone was basically calling the kids and posting updates and whatnot, and the internet kind of just exploded at that time. It was free. Tried to just do the whole, hey, advertising, and that was something. And then from Rivals, everything kind of just sprung. There became, different websites and.
Well, you're appealing to so many people too. Obviously, the kids love it because they're getting exposure, and I could imagine the college coaches have to love it because. Hey, you're doing some of the homework for them.
Yeah,
already.
They're getting information. Obviously, the college football fans loved it. We kind of, it sounds crazy, but what we kind of found was, we go on these message boards after a game, and whether win or lose, half the fan base cared more about recruiting than the actual game. Wow. They would say, hey, we lost, but hey, what recruits were at the game today?
Right.
And so that was kind of like the driving force. And so, now, like I said, recruiting is huge industry. But my beginning was filling up these, 900 numbers, and like I said, then everything kind of exploded, and I was able to, get in there. Like I said,
Ground
the Nike football camps, my role was player personnel, so get the players there, staffing them, and then with the Student Sports magazine, studentsports.com website, running the recruiting thing, and then very blessed, lucky timing, all that was perfect for me.
Yeah, so let's fast forward a little bit to present time.
Yeah.
The number one question I'm sure you get asked. The star system. How does it work?
Yeah.
What does a star mean? And what does a kid have to do to quote unquote get a star?
Yeah, I mean it's a question that I get asked, and it's I don't love talking about it honestly because as an old school guy, I feel like it takes away from the joy of playing high school football. The majority of players, the way we do rankings, and there's a company On3 is now with Rivals. They do it similar to us also. It's an NFL draft projection. Okay. So we're not ranking based on who are the best high school player. Now, just to preface that, high school football absolutely matters. Production matters. How good you are on the field with pads on matters a ton. Because someone will hear this interview and they're going to say, oh, yeah, he said it doesn't matter what you do with pads on. It's all about a project. No, I'm not saying that at all. That's always someone's takeaway. Football matters. Production matters. All that good stuff matters. But for us, it's a long-term projection to the NFL draft. Why we use the NFL draft is simply it's a scoreboard that tells you if you're right or wrong, right? If we do 32 5-stars because there's 32 first-round picks.
And that's
in the NFL
it.
draft.
There's only 32 guys with 5 stars.
So if we label a guy as a 5-star, we're saying this guy has first-round ability. And then the thing that I always doesn't get upset me but 3 stars, they're not all created equally. So within our 3-star range, I sent you you have a secondary grade 80 to an 89. A 4-star starts at a 90, right? So if you're an 89 and 88, you're a 3-star, but you're like a high-end 3. You're a 4.
Right.
It's just we can't give everybody a 4. Right. We have to cap it somewhere. So we do 32 5s, and then probably the next, I would say 300 players or so are your 4s. And after that, then you go to this next tier, which is your 3s. But again, your 3s, there's 89, 88, 87s. If you're a low end, a 3 at like an 80, 81, means, you have a chance to play at the next level. Upside is limited. Maybe you're more of a support role player. If you're an 85, 86, that's considered, a mid-tier player. You got a chance to be a really good college football player, but probably just limited upside. And then if you're an 87, 89, you're a legit NFL guy. It's just a numbers game. You can't give everybody, right? And then if you're, with the 4 stars, there's a secondary ranking. So if we think you're a second, third round pick, there's a ranking there. If you're a 4th, 5th round pick, if we see you as potentially an undrafted free agent, but still an NFL guy, then you're in that 89 to 90 range.
So if you're a 3-star athlete, you shouldn't be discouraged. There's probably a really good chance you can play D1 still. And
one of our guys I work with, his little Twitter bio says 3-star football players are good football players. Because people have this view, if you're a 4 or 5, you're good. If you're a 3-star, you're terrible. Not at all. The majority of high school football players are not going to play football in college. It's really hard, right?
Right.
And I think what I've seen over the years is this whole emphasis on, I need a star, and if I get a star, then I'll get a scholarship offer, and no one's going to offer me if I don't have a star. No, if you're a college, and don't get me wrong, colleges do look at our stuff, and we look at their stuff to see who they're offering, but at the end of the day, if you're a college and you love a kid, you're going to offer him regardless of what his ranking is. I think I've literally had parents tell me, yeah, you cost my kid a scholarship because you didn't rank him as high as he should have, and all the time, right? And so, I think for me, I think kids should play football because they love it and it's fun. And there's so many benefits to playing your sport, whether it be football, whether it be volleyball, whether it be soccer, whatever. Play your sport for the love of it and enjoy it. And
then good things will happen, right?
Yeah, and if you don't play in college, the majority are not going to play in college, but now there's this rush to, I got to get a scholarship and I got to transfer to this high school because they're not playing me. And if I need, so that's why you see so many rampant transfers. Now you're seeing, and they all think, well, I'm being held back. I don't have a scholarship. No, it's because you're not good enough, right? But we don't want to say those conversations.
Of course not.
But the reality is, if you just play, I think if players just played their sport for the love of it, this world will be a better place.
That passion's going to come through in the way they play.
And I think for us, especially when they know that rankings for us are not based on how good you are in high school, it's a long-term projection, then I feel like it really takes the focus away from high school football because we're not even looking at college as much. But, we are. Question we always get asked is why to the NFL? Why not say, hey, these are going to be the best college football players? And the question for answer for that is, there's so many things even in college, just like high school, that are slanted towards maybe you're a quarterback and you throw the ball 40 times a game versus 10 times a game. Maybe you play on a loaded team. Maybe you play in a weaker conference. Maybe
like the quarterback at Air Force, for example. What does he get? 5 throws a game?
Running different offenses.
You can go on Max Preps, which I love, and look at the state stat leaders. And the guys that lead the state in sacks, touchdown receptions, they're never these high-end D1 guys, right? The guy leads the state in sacks, usually some 5'10", 220-pound sawed-off nose guard who gets 30 sacks because he's strong and great technique. The guy who leads the state in rushing yards is usually a guy at a smaller school who probably runs a 4.9.
They drop 68 a game.
Yeah, but God bless that kid, right?
Sure.
That's awesome if you're a dominant high school player at a school that's not good, but who cares if you can't play? Just go play high school football for the love of the game.
Sure.
But the reality is that guy is not a high end, so you can't just go by stats. You can't go by, someone said, well, what about, who if you make all-league, all-American? That's completely political, too.
What league were you playing in?
I've sat in all-league meetings for the fun of it. And if you win your league, okay, you get 8 players. Okay, you came in second, you get 7 players. You came in third, okay, you get 3 players. You came in last, you get nobody on the first team, we'll give you 2. What if the guy who came in last, what if he's got a dude who would actually be better than the guys but because his team was bad, and that goes on in
all-league slot.
That goes on in college too. You look at who wins all the awards, right? Even the Heisman, the Thorpe, the Biletnikoff. Typically, it's guys who play on a really good team.
Right.
That doesn't mean you're the best player. I think the NFL draft is nobody drafts bad college football players. Right? So what we're doing is we're kind of just eliminating the biases to what league you play in, how good your team is, how good the competition, how big your stats are, which can be skewed based on, a lot of different factors. And so we try to say, hey, these are the best linemen. And so the draft is our scoreboard. And every year, we have big misses, but we have a ton of hits too. And we're seeing, the majority of the first round now is former 4- and 5-star guys. That used to be like that. So every year it gets a little better. And
so you can take kind of a hazy picture and you guys make it clear.
We have guys that literally part of their job is to take the draft every year and go back and look at what those guys were in high school. So we're looking for trends, right? Okay, so the 10 running backs were drafted in the first 3 rounds. What do they have in common? And what you'll see is it doesn't matter how many yards per game, it's more yards per carry is the big indicator. These guys all ran track. They had an average time of 10.8 to 900 meters. They were 10.2 yards per carry. They were all in the 5'10", 5'11 range. They're about 190 pounds in high school, right? We talked before about a big one, a trend, an indicator. Which talk about offensive linemen. It's now a very athletic position because it's a passing league. College is a passing league. NFL is a passing league.
Got to have that footwork.
Got to have feet. Got to be balanced. Got to have length. All that good stuff, right? So over a 3-year period, there was actually more offensive linemen drafted in the NFL that played tight end in high school, who were 240 pounds, who went to college, put on 40 or 50 pounds, right? And it kept that feet, kept that balance, kept that coordination. There was more guys that played tight end than there were offensive linemen who were over 300 pounds in high school.
Talk about the importance of playing multiple sports as well.
Huge multi-sport guys.
Versus being a one-trick pony and saying, well, I just want to focus on football.
Yep. Not just the thing that translates is not just the multi-sport, but the two-way snaps is a big indicator for all positions. But talk about multi-sport, even quarterbacks. You're seeing a lot of the quarterbacks that are drafted played another sport in high school.
I remember Rosen was a tennis player, interestingly. I remember Danny Farmer, the receiver, he was a volleyball
elite
guy.
volleyball player. I actually saw Josh play beach volleyball one time, and the guy could jump and bang like Josh Rhodes. You would not. Sam Darnold was a linebacker early on, and kind of just grew and ended up being a great quarterback, obviously. But like his first offer was from Utah as a linebacker as a sophomore out of San Clemente High School. So so we look for trends. We look for wide receivers. You're looking for like just a short area quickness. Looking for long speed is important, but a lot of times with receivers, it's can you get open right away. So it's more the short area stuff than the long speed. Again, offensive lineman, you have tackles and guards, centers that are all kind of different category. If you're an offensive lineman and you have a wingspan that's less than 80 inches, you're not going to get drafted, right? No matter how dominant you are in high school. That's like you got to at least be 80. Your arms got to be at least 32, 33. You can be a great high school player. No one cares about your arm span, right? But in college, it starts to matter. NFL, 1,000% matters. And that's why go to the combine and you watch the combine, you do all those testing. You'll see guys move their stock up and down based on sometimes not just how they test, but their measurements. Everybody's taller than they're supposed to be, right? You go to see the combine and everyone's 6'1".
We got a couple guys I'm going to highlight. I'm
not
not so sure about that height. But
so everyone fudges it by an inch or two, maybe more, and a couple pounds. Yeah.
I've seen that.
So all that matters.
So I want to ask you about the camps that these kids go to. What are your thoughts on the camps? Is that a good way to get recognized if you don't, quote unquote, have the stars and you feel like you're a next level guy?
So I'm a big camp guy, but I also am someone who I think it's important to have some self-awareness and be a little bit of a realist. So I know everyone's dream is to go play high Power 4, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm saying, dude, go do whatever you got to do. But also, if by the time you're a junior, senior year, you're not really getting much of a sniff, kind of examine yourself a little bit. Say, am I a Texas level football player? I was second team all league. I'm not super fast, right? I'm that receiver that just gets open. I have good hands, but I don't have much in terms of high-end athleticism. Maybe I shouldn't go camp at Ohio State. Right. If I'm getting letters from UC Davis or Idaho State, good schools,
those
right?
are great places to play. Yeah.
Go camp with those schools.
Yeah. Right.
Because you have a better chance of getting an offer from those schools who are actually already recruiting you. You're not going to go to a camp at University of Miami.
And don't they usually have their guys kind of anyway?
They already have their guys. So even if you do go to that camp, you can quickly tell, okay, so you see the kids, and they're divided up the second they get there. Right? You have the guys that they actually invited to their camps. Right. You're in one group. The guys that just kind of walked on and want a chance to be seen, you're in this group over here on the third field, and maybe we'll watch you, and maybe we won't.
The GAs.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, if somebody goes over there, and this has happened before, goes over in that third group and he's killing it.
Coach notices him.
They can bring you over. But for the most part, they already kind of know who they want. So realize who you are as a player. And that's not to crap on someone's dream, but just have self-awareness, realize it. And then the letters that you're getting, go to those camps. I'm a big fan of the Redlands camp every year because they'll do 4 or 5, and you'll have schools, the high Power 4 schools to the 1AAs and in-betweens. You're able to go to that camp and be seen by 20 different colleges, and it's a great opportunity. Also, get the film out, be aggressive. Right. Like I told you last time we talked, when I first started, it was these things called VHS tapes, and mailing those things out was a bore. And then it became
DVDs.
CD, which that was easier, but it was still, now you can have a huddle link.
So do you encourage these kids
Huddle's
to make their own
amazing.
Huddle account?
I do,
They have
1000%,
one.
yeah.
Have their own Twitter account, cut it up, make a highlight film. And
the way you can
promote
market yourself, absolutely. Your Twitter should have the school you go to, and if and spell it out. I've seen like BHS. Okay, what does that mean? Bakersfield High School. There's 1,000 B.
Right.
So spell out your high school, put your grad year, your class 27, your class 24, put it on there. Put your height and weight on there, and
How
have a
about
link.
times?
Huh?
Like running times, would you put that on there?
You
too?
can put that on there. Yeah.
And what about your GPA if it's what 3.5 or higher?
Yep.
At some point you don't probably want to list it. But
If you have a 2.2, don't put it on there.
right. That's my point.
But if I say if you have a 3.0 or higher, go ahead and slap it on there. But make sure you have a link to your huddle. Make sure it's updated. I've seen some guys that are seniors and they have their freshman huddle still.
Oh.
And you look at the kid, go, man, this kid doesn't look very good. And you're like, oh, because the tape is 3 years old.
Why are they playing at 3 in the afternoon?
Yeah, exactly. So have an updated huddle link. Another thing I always tell parents and kids and coaches, put your best plays first. We always call it the rule of 5. You can tell within 5 plays if a guy can play or not.
Right.
Don't do the whole game by game where you go, okay, my best plays from game 1, game 2. If your best plays happen in game 9, no one saw them. You're watching 5 plays. And in those first 5 plays,
It's going to capture the coach's attention.
you're either going to capture it or you're not.
Right.
If you watch those 5, because again, for us and for coaches, you're having to watch 50 guys. You're not going to watch a 3-minute highlight tape unless those first 5 plays are kind of intriguing. So if you're a wide receiver, man, I love a receiver that can block. But that shouldn't be your first 3 plays on the highlight tape, right? You want to see the guy, can you stretch the field? Can you run after the catch?
Can he run a route? Can he get open? Can he make the catch?
Yeah. Can you do some things that stand out? First 5 plays, that's what you want to see. If you're a quarterback, again, you love a guy that can, run around and scramble, and if that's one of your best plays, if you're going 60, that's great. Don't put your first couple plays incomplete pass, but man, you threw it really far. Like no one.
Hey, I've got arm strength.
Yeah.
And obviously, like hustle plays look really good on film as well.
They do. But again, those first 5 should really capture,
That's
okay,
gonna
what
make
makes
the
you
impact.
stand out versus the other 50 guys I'm going to watch.
Right.
And I think that's something else a lot of parents don't fully get. They think, well, my kid got all league. So did 1,000 other kids.
Right.
And there's all people.
In what league? I mean, you
football
could go-
is played outside of Southern California.
Yeah.
Some people, I don't know if they realize that, but there's some really good football played outside of this little bubble that we live in here. And I'm a fan of SoCal football. I'm a fan of California football in general. But I think some people feel like, well, if you're the best in this area, that means you're the best because California football is where it's at. Not necessarily
What are the
necessarily
top
case.
regions, would you say, if you're going to say like the 4 best regions for football?
So right now, I hate to say it, but Texas.
Okay.
Again, if you look by NFL draft and look at college football, where are all the All-Americans coming from? It's the South, right? It's that area, like in South Florida area. You have, the South, which also encompasses, like your
Georgia,
Alabama, Georgia.
Yeah.
And then I think California is still one of used to be said the big 3, California, Texas, Florida. Now California has dropped behind Georgia.
Interesting.
Which it's kind of, over the last 5 NFL
Has any
drafts.
data showed why, or is it just one of those things?
I think there's a lot of reasons, to be honest, but the last 5 NFL drafts, Georgia's had more guys drafted.
Okay.
And again, you watch college, people say, it's NFL. No, watch college football. Look at the All-American teams, and there are not a lot of California guys. Now, we'll have a Mason Graham, we'll have a T-Mac, but the majority of your All-Americans are coming from other parts of the country. You watch the college football playoff, how many California schools are making the college football playoff now?
Say like Ohio, Michigan,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. The Oregon is the one, I'd say the most consistent, Oregon and Washington. But Oregon is probably the one school that you're kind of seeing compete on a national level. And it's because they're recruiting at a national level. They're not just recruiting West Coast California kids like they used to. You can't do that anymore. And I think even for SC, people would say, SC and UCLA are a little bit down right now. Well, I think part of it is because California football as a whole is a little bit down. So your pool of players that used to be able to find anything you wanted in California, we don't provide, whatever reason, we don't have the dominant linemen like we used to. Interior D linemen, D tackles, and athletic offensive tackles. We don't come out of California anymore. Again, watch the draft.
What do you attribute that to?
It's
probably a combination of things.
I don't have a great answer. I think, some people tracked it like prior to COVID, there was more players coming out, not as much after. I was starting to already see kind of fewer and fewer linemen. I do feel this is something that's interesting from a skill standpoint. Wide receiver DBs, I feel like we have less guys running track now than we used to, and more guys doing 7-on-7 in California.
Okay.
Other parts of the country, especially in Texas, everybody runs track.
So this gets back to that whole multi-sport. You can't just be a one-trick pony. The more sports you play, the more you're going to develop skill set and the value of these high school kids play as many sports as you can while you can.
Yep. And speed is everything. And you know, you go to South Florida and the speed, like the linemen out there are fast. They just look differently, right? But California used to be known as a track state.
Sure.
Right.
And I try to preach the gospel of track as much as I can, and multi-sport, but specifically track. And I think, you know, you're seeing, I think last year might have even been this past spring, the guy who finished like 10th in Texas, didn't even qualify for the final, he would have been like first or second in California. Like, it's just a different level. So I think when you just focus so much on 7-on-7, we have a lot of kids who actually think 7-on-7 is more valuable than what you're doing with the pads on. It's crazy. And I'm not saying there's no value, and I go to a lot of those events, and it's a great way to watch. I think there are some positives to doing it. If you're a quarterback, I always say, man, just play the position the right way, though. Don't throw from the line of scrimmage. Don't have your receivers run these crazy, ridiculous routes that take 8 seconds. Take a real 3-5 step drop. Hold the ball right. Stay on your feet. Don't just stand in one spot and throw the ball on time. If you're a DB, I think you go to any 7-on-7 tournament, I'd say 90% of the DBs are holding and grabbing and clutching because no one calls it, right? So you're learning bad habits, and then you go and watch them play with pads on, and they can't cover because they're used to having a clutch, grab, and hold the whole entire time.
Right.
I think, you know, 40-yard field, you don't have to really worry about getting beat over the top, so you can be a little extra aggressive, a little extra handsy. You know, and even receivers, you know, they're running these routes that, you know, aren't real routes. You're seeing running backs run through the tackle box, where there's, in real football, there's these things called linemen that kind of stand right there, so you can't have a quarterback dump it off over the line of scrimmage because
we call that the passing league special.
Right, yeah. So
safety has less time to get the ball because the field's smaller, so it can come over.
All that stuff.
Out.
So I'd say focus. I'd say the multi-sport thing needs to be a bigger factor out here. And I truly believe that would do a lot of it. And again, not just track, man. Travis Hunter.
Wrestling for linemen.
Wrestling for linemen is huge.
Yeah.
Again, talked about Mason Graham earlier. Like, his stock went up as people saw his wrestling background and said, dude, this guy is strong as heck. Now, he was a guy who didn't have ideal length measurements for terms of arm span and wing. But just like I said with Bryce Young as a quarterback, if you have a deficiency, you better be like exceptional in every other area of your game. Right. Mason Graham was exceptional. He didn't have the ideal arm, but his get off, his hands were as strong as you've ever seen. His motor was crazy. He had grown man strength as a high school kid, and he was able to just manhandle. His get off was unreal. So NFL people are saying, oh, we'll see how he does. I think I've already heard he's doing really well during spring camp. Again, exceptional. Bryce Young, there's only been 4 quarterbacks over the last 10 drafts who've been drafted under 6 feet. So kind of the odds were against Bryce Young. He was 5'11", and not a thick 5'11". He's a skinnier 5'11", and he wasn't an elite athlete. You know, he had an elite escapability. His ability to feel pressure, make guys miss, roll out, and do these crazy sidearm throws through 2 guys in complete passes. His poise was unreal. He had underrated arm strength, underrated arm talent. He had bigger hands than DJ Uiagalelei, who came out the same year, the 6'4" kid from Bosco. Bryce actually had bigger hands. So he was a kind of a bigger kid without being a bigger frame kid, but he wasn't 6 feet, but he was so good in every other area, every other aspect of his game, that he was a no-brainer and ended up, you know, obviously going to Bama and having a lot of success in the first-round overall pick. So I mean, that's how it's supposed to work, right? We had Bryce number 1 overall, and he was the number 1 pick in the draft. Doesn't always work out that way.
Sure.
We had Travis Hunter number 1, he went number 2. But a lot of Travis Hunter's elite athleticism popped playing basketball. He was an all-state hooper, and he's jumping from inside the foul line and throwing it down on people, and you're going, man, this guy is a freak athlete, and it showed up not just in football, but other sports as well. So
I want to get back to social media for a second. We talked about the things they should be doing on social media. What are the things they need to avoid to prevent them from getting a scholarship?
Yeah. No, I mean, I always say this. You know, if you have to ask the question, should I post it? Probably don't.
Yeah.
And that goes for, you know, adults too. Right?
Sure. If there's any doubt in your mind, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, people are, you know, not just recruiting you, they're recruiting, you know, your whole family. And so you see some parents just post some of the most knuckleheadish stuff, and you're going, come on, man, you're an adult and you're posting this, ripping your coach, ripping another player, ripping this, or just saying a bunch of dumb stuff.
So a college coach is going to see that and say, do I want this kid to be a part of my program if he's bringing this along with him?
Do I want this headache?
Have you seen guys cost themselves a scholarship because of stupid things they said?
1,000%. I've seen kids get crossed off because of their parents.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've seen kids get crossed off because they're posting ridiculous stuff.
Sure.
Whether it be, you know, quoting a song, lyrics are terrible, and you're going, okay, what is this about? If you're constantly that guy looks like a prima donna, you know, it's funny. The guys that we've seen who complain the most about rankings and where they're rated at, you know, we've seen guys that have been rated like in the top 10 overall, and they're complaining, saying, I should be number 1. And those are the same guys who we'll see they'll go to an All-American game and get injured and have to sit out the rest of the week. It's kind of funny. They're all kind of in that same box of like,
they want to be there and be noticed, but they don't really want to work.
Do you care more about being recruited, or do you actually want to be a football player? Right. If you're a really elite football player, should you care as much? Everyone's competitive, and I get that part, right? But to be the guy who's going to constantly whine and complain, I'm not going to talk. We've had people in, hey, can you take me off your website? You don't have me rated as high. Or don't interview me, or I'm done talking to you guys. You don't have my ranking right.
So they're more interested in a star than they are a scholarship. It should be the opposite.
It seems that way. A lot of these guys already have their 40 offers. Who knows how many are actually committable by the time they're ready to commit? But the guys, there's a huge bust rate for the guys that were in high school. They were the prima donnas that complained and whined and didn't value what should matter most, which is just, hey, work, get better, and develop, and who cares where you're rated? You're going to college for free. End of the day, that's all that matters. But it's those guys bust big time who were kind of built that way. It kind of shows, right? It's kind of, some people are just wired. Some guys.
So they got a full D1 scholarship, but yet they're still complaining. Hey, I was a 5-star athlete, but I was number 5 in the top 10 and not number 1.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much do coaches look at things like body language, kind of that effort? When they're going to give you, how much can that hurt a kid in terms of like when they're not necessarily involved in the play, how they perform on that play?
Yeah, we definitely look at that a lot. Toughness, character. Again, you hear people will say, hey, I'd rather have a 3-star dog than a 5-star any day.
Right.
Well, the 5-star isn't a 5-star because he's only good. We value things like toughness and off-field work ethic and coachability and leadership. And so, you're that's one of the benefits about seeing these kids at some of these off-season camps. And like I said, sometimes I think the camp season is too long. Some kids go to everything. But some of the showcases, some of the 7-ons, you can look at a player and see how he reacts when he's not getting the ball if you're a receiver, or a quarterback receiver drops the ball. How does he react?
I see that those passing leagues a lot. The quarterback overthrows him, and the receiver's just going crazy. It's like, look, he missed you, man. He ran a good route, and you're just so upset.
Or if it's a quarterback. Quarterback's a leadership position, and receiver drops the ball. It happens. You go and chew the receiver out, or do you go and pat him on the back?
Right.
And now another thing about Bryce Young, and I'll come back to him. His leadership, man, his love for his players and teammates. I'd see players drop the ball, and he's patting himself on the chest, like, hey, my bad. You're going, that was a perfect ball. But he wanted the receiver to feel good. So the next time the receiver runs the same route, he'll catch the ball.
Right.
Like, guy was just wired differently. And there's a lot of guys like that, a lot of quarterbacks. Then there's also, you see a lot of quarterbacks that are complete turds. And again, those guys, if they're like that in high school, they go to college and they don't play because people don't like them. And you got to be a leader. You got to be that guy in the locker room. And I'm not saying you can't be competitive, because I know, talk UCLA, like Cade McNown was known as kind of a tough teammate, but people loved him and respected him because he was so good and he played so hard. But you also want to love up your teammates and pick them up a little bit. And that's where, again, at some of these events, you see guys that are just like, okay, this guy's a major prima donna. You could tell he's used to never being told anything he did was wrong. He probably had, mom or dad, probably has a big giant poster of his kid over the fireplace, like,
Sure.
Framed.
Framed. And just like he kind of has that entitled. You see so much entitlement. And
That's a big red flag for the coaches.
Big red flag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something to keep in mind.
So what has NIL done to high school recruiting? What kind of effect has that had on high school kids?
Oh man. So I think it's I always kind of tie NIL and the transfer portal together because they both had a big impact. But I would say NIL has now been, and we'll see if right now, there's we're going to see if NIL is still going to be around, but they're going to try to, manage it a little bit better. And there's going to be rev share, and there's going to be a cap where every team gets 20 mil and you can't go over the cap. But you're already seeing players and people come out and saying, hey, before this stuff, there was already kids getting paid.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, we all know that. We know
that.
Now they were able to do it under the table before.
Sure.
Those still, but just for the humor of it, we'll just say, so the rev share, we'll see if that balances out the level playing field.
Okay.
But what I've seen, 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, if you ask a kid, hey, what's the biggest thing for you in picking a school? It's early playing time, it's relationship with the coach, it's location, it's maybe academics, I want to win, all those kind of things. Now it's, okay, who's paying me? Who's paying me the most? And I think there's danger in that, obviously, right? NFL is where the real money is going to be at. And so if you're picking, your college based on who's going to pay you the most, what if they can't develop you? What if you don't play there? What if you hate what if you hate it there? Now all of a sudden you've killed your stock in 1 or 2 years. Now you hit the portal. Nobody wants you because you haven't played.
Right.
But you got that NIL money. That's not going to really be sustainable. So
has that pushed the high school kids down the ladder a little bit in that it used to be, now they go from the transfer portal to the JUCO guy. Now we're looking at high school kids because they need guys who are ready to play right now.
Yeah.
And so they've kind of had to, go a different route.
I would say the transfer portal has hurt high school football in terms of how many numbers of kids are signing.
Right.
And because basically every time you're recruiting a high school kid, it doesn't matter if it's the best of the best. There's always, you're guessing.
Right.
And that's all sports, right? You just never know. You could find the guy who looks like a complete no-brainer. You never know because now you're a high school kid going against grown men.
Whereas you have a guy from like a JUCO or
looking at a kid,
D2, D3 who's already played 2 years.
Looking at a college guy who's already played, there's no guessing. You've already seen with your eyes, okay, this guy's playing college football,
right,
whether it be JUCO or even at a Power 4, and you're seeing him dominate, and you're saying, okay, that guy could play for us right now. There's no development. Right. So in years past, you get every school could get their 25 scholarships to give out. The last 5 or 6 would go towards what we call developmental kids. Guys that maybe can't play right now, but you can, hey, let's bring the kid in, he'll redshirt, we'll get him in our strength program, nutrition program, and he'll be really good maybe 3 years from now. Now, they're not going after those guys. They don't need to. They can go get a guy right now who could play rather than risk giving him those last 5 or 6 rides to a guy who might be able to play or might not be able to play. So I think what you're going to see is more kids going the JUCO route. So JUCO football should really get a boost in terms of just the talent coming in, because now they're having to go the JUCO route rather than going to playing for a college program. And I think there's value in that. I've always said there's value in playing the JUCO route. You can develop, you can mature physically. I always said this, physically, the body, high school players, the body matures may make the biggest jump between your junior and senior year. Right. But so many of these colleges make their decisions discounting their senior year tape, right? Like they've already made their decision on who they want.
They already know going into the senior year.
You look at the recruiting classes right now, and the majority of the classes, their class is already done.
Yeah.
They already have 20 guys signed, and we haven't played senior year football yet. So that kid who makes that huge jump, physical jump, which happens more than any other year, junior to senior year, no one sees it.
Yeah, all these class of 26 commits right
26
now
already
still haven't played a varsity football
Correct.
game in their senior year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But colleges kind of already have their classes done. They already have 20, 21, and last 5 spots go to the portal. Yep. And so you're seeing guys that have great senior tape, and no one even gets to really. Now there's always exceptions. If you're really good, you have a big senior year. Edison running back, right? Was it last year or 2 years ago?
Julius killed
it, right?
Yeah.
Looked like Cam Scadaboo. I think he's going to Fresno State.
Yeah, Julius going to Fresno State.
But so that's the exception to the rule. I wish senior year mattered because that's where that big physical jump comes from. Sure. You see guys come up and now they can play, but the majority of those guys are going to go the JUCO route.
Right.
Maybe they go play 1 year of JUCO, they kill it there. Now you have 20 options rather than just maybe having to settle for maybe not your top choice. So
we actually have a couple guys I want to show you real quick that
Okay.
are kind of on par with what you're talking about. If you can pull my monitor real quick. These are Sunset League guys. You've got Brady Edmunds going to Ohio State. He's the big 4-star quarterback, and his quarterback, Troy Foster, his receiver, Troy Foster.
Yep.
Devyn Blake, now, I've mentioned him because he's going to Sacramento State. That's a school that's really made a big push for recruiting. It wasn't a traditional powerhouse. What's going on at Sacramento State?
Yeah, so Brendan Marion is the new head coach, and he was always known as one of the elite recruiters wherever he was at, whether it be Hawaii, whether it be Texas, wherever. I mean, he is a aggressive head coach. He has an aggressive staff who, they're offering probably more kids than every other school in the country. They're aggressively trying to get these early commitments.
Yeah, they're bringing ringers in.
Yeah, they had like, I don't know, at one point they had 40 guys committed already.
Wow.
So, they're being very aggressive. Troy Thomas was the one who told me about Devyn last year. He said, obviously Troy's had so much success over the years, especially those Servite teams were exceptional.
Yep.
And
so
Devyn
he
is
says,
a
hey, I got a guy.
athlete.
He goes, I got a guy. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening. So Devyn Blake, two-way player, two-sport guy. Hofland is a player who, I think Boise State is probably one of the best schools in the country. Not just they're not a Power 4, but for me they're a Gonzaga basketball. They're not a Power 4 program, but they are a Power 4 program. 100%.
They're steady. They're good every year.
They can play anywhere. They do a great job of evaluating. I think Hofland's got an upside. He's 6'4". He's going to be 260 in a couple years because he's got the length.
He looks
he's got
like
the
Drago
wingspan.
from Rocky if you've seen him in person.
He's what you look for in a young player. And again, he's a guy who you look at his stats, not going to be gaudy as much as other players.
Right.
But again, he's 6'4" and 230 with the frame to get bigger, whereas another guy who might have comparative, might be, hey, I play in that same league, I had more numbers, yeah, but you're probably 6'1" and 210, and you're maxed out.
And that goes back to being realistic thing and
Yep.
comparing.
And I'm a parent, I get it. Like
Sure.
if I'm a parent, my kid has better numbers than this guy, and he's rated higher, and he has offers, I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
And I'm going, hey, this isn't fair. My kid's better. And he goes, yeah, he's better right now, but this kid has a higher ceiling.
You gotta
That's the word.
project.
We keep using that word ceiling.
Yeah.
Your kid probably is as good as he's going to be. Right now, he's better than this kid, but your kid's peaked. This guy is going to go up, and when he maximizes his potential, not everybody does maximize their potential, but if they do, that's what colleges bet on. They bet on this guy is going to maximize the potential, and he's going to be up here, and your kid's going to be down here. Obviously, I love Brady, great kid, and another guy we've been tracking since 8th grade, and big, strong, physical,
He looked
elite
like a high
arm.
school senior in
As an eighth grader.
I thought he was the backup
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
saw him the first time.
Well,
I saw
I'm
him out
looking
of
at
camp.
some of your predictions. Like you have there's a site where it can say who Greg Biggins is predicting where they'll go to college, and then there's a check mark when they've committed.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, your numbers are impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing to. It gets
Oh.
easy when you kind of have an idea of what they're going to
But
do.
no, I'm scrolling down. I'm like, check. I'm like, wow.
I pick my spots. I don't pick a guy unless I'm 100% confident
Right,
I'm that guy, right? So
All right, I want to go on the next one.
Yeah.
If a kid wants to go the military school
Yeah.
route, I've got 2 former players and a current player. Lenny Ibarra just committed to Army.
Yep.
You got Morella, who ended up going to Air Force, and Carson Diavolo, who was a Navy guy.
all good players.
What is that? If you want to go the military route, what would you recommend to the kids?
I mean, so you obviously there's a commitment after football that you have to make sure, hey, are you willing to do this?
So they can't really NIL them, right? Like once you're committed there, you're not leaving school after 1 year
Yeah, I mean,
because you got to go serve for.
you got to go
years.
serve.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Well, that was the big thing in baseball. Paul Skeens originally went to Air Force
Yeah.
and then somehow transferred to LSU, and it worked out for him.
Oh, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Future angel Paul Skeens.
But what are the
I
military
can
schools?
dream.
Yeah,
I can
right?
dream, right? That's supposedly his dream school.
Yeah.
No, so the rules are so radically different when it comes to a military school. So if a player goes there and he's killing it, there has been players that actually have gotten their release and have been able to go and transfer up. UCLA had a running back that was from Army 2 years ago. So, but yeah, no, I think it's a great. If you're cool with the post football commitment, I think it's awesome, right? Lenny, I remember seeing him last year or 2 years ago against, I want to say, Narbonne, where he looked like the fastest guy in the field and was making a ton of plays in that game. Newport Harbor always does a really good job with the skilled players. And then Sean Huntington Beach High School, big, strong kid, Air Force. Another one of those schools that, yeah, they're military, but Air Force, no one wants to play Air Force just because they're always tough and always
punch
good.
in the mouth
yeah,
and
yeah.
strap that helmet a little tighter.
Yep.
Okay, these are kind of like my favorite. These are guys that didn't necessarily have stars, but were effective players.
Yep.
Parker, Awad, and Cain Elroy went the JUCO route,
Mm-hmm.
bided their time, and now they've got scholarships, full scholarships, playing at the next level. And then Garrett Hunnicutt was a 3-year starter. Again, 6 foot.
Yeah.
Maybe I've seen him, but he was a great player and he got a scholarship.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be
That's
that
the dream.
4-star, 5-star
Yeah.
guy, right?
No, and the thing is, we're not predicting, with our rankings, who's going to get a scholarship and who's not. We're saying, can this guy get drafted?
Right.
And that's what I think people miss.
No, you can be a great high school player. You can be a really good college player. It was funny. There was names escaping me. Give me a second. But there was a guy. Last name was Scooby. Went to Arizona. Was a linebacker, right? And his Twitter ended up being like a 2-time All-American linebacker at Arizona. Wasn't
Is it
rated.
Josh Scooby?
I'm gonna look.
Is it?
All right, Taryn's on it.
I think he might have even been like Scooby Wright. Might have even won the Buckus Award, right? Northern California player, little undersized. He wasn't rated.
Right.
We just didn't see him.
Sure.
And honestly, a lot of times we just don't see a kid.
Right.
You're not
Can't
gonna
see
get
everybody.
everyone right. There's
Can't
a lot of
see
high school kids
Can't
play
see
football.
everybody. Didn't
Sure.
see. Yeah.
Can't be everywhere.
So the guy literally his Twitter. So he's an All-American at Arizona. 2, maybe even 4-year starter. Just goes in there and just kills it, right? And his Twitter handle was no star Scooby, whatever it was. Like that was his Twitter because it was like
Use it
a
as motivation.
You use it 100%.
Yeah.
All-American, but end of the day, 3-time All-American, wasn't drafted. So it sounds funny, kind of like I'm not trying to flex on the kid, but the ranking was actually correct
Yeah.
because he wasn't drafted. And if we were trying to predict college, now, obviously, if we had seen him if you're an All-American in college, you should have been at least
Pretty good
a 2.
at
So
high
we
school,
took an
right?
L there.
Yeah.
But the idea was these rankings aren't based just on who's going to be a good college player, right? For years, you saw, not anymore, but the Heisman Trophy winner wasn't always a great NFL prospect. He was a guy who's going to be good in college. You'll see guys that are all conference that don't get drafted. So it always comes down to, again,
And it's based on a formula. It's not personal.
height, weight, length, speed. No, it's never personal.
Right,
Like
and that's
people will say, "Oh, why not?" Again, I literally had a dad tell me, "Hey, why don't you like my kid?" And I'm like, "Sir,
your kid?"
it's never personal."
Here's the factors. Here's how we figure it out. Yeah.
I mean, parents make it personal, where you almost they become so obnoxious, you almost find yourself rooting against the kid because the dad. But end of the day,
them off your back.
it's interesting. A lot of these guys that have these most obnoxious dads have great kids.
Sure.
I don't know how it happens that way, but it just does
It's
a lot
very
of the time.
nice of you to even acknowledge some of these parents, because I mean, I'm sure you get like these questions. You're
Yeah.
like, I don't even want to give this guy an answer, but it's really nice of you and polite
Yeah.
of you that you do.
like,
That's
oh,
very
this guy
professional.
again.
Yeah.
Here he
I always
comes.
try to be
Yeah.
Pick up
transparent.
that phone. Hey, honey,
I always try to do
call.
something. I get cornered at an event, and you have no
Oh,
choice.
God.
But I always
You'll
try to
actually
be
be at a football game where a parent will come up to you. Hey,
Oh, dude,
Greg, I'd
all
like
the
to speak
time.
with you.
Yep.
Oh,
at a
boy.
camp. Yep. Hey, so I
Wow.
want to talk to you about my son, and you're like, great.
Bro, I'm working. Call me.
No.
Yeah.
And well, I don't want them to call me. I'm like, hey, let's just get it over with right here, right now. And
Rip
like I
that
said,
Band-Aid off.
I'll always be extremely honest, and I'll be polite and nice, and I'll sugarcoat. But if they're over the top, I'll say, okay, Simon Cowell's coming out. I go, here's the deal.
Sir, your son is a
Your
3-star.
kid is a
I
good
told
high
you
school-
why.
He's a good high school
Yeah.
player, but he doesn't meet any of these things we're looking for. And he's old, and he's a double holdback, and he's already peaked, and he doesn't run track like I've asked you to, and he's a 4.8 guy. These other receivers are faster, stronger, more elite, and
So
embrace the fact he's a good high school player. That should be good enough for you.
You've given them the blueprint to success,
Always.
and they still don't, like you're saying, hey, track is really going to help your son. But they don't always take the advice.
You know what's funny? What parents will do is they'll find the lowest common denominator. Somebody will have success. A Stetson Bennett, who's a walk-on at Georgia, will have success, and I'll have 20 quarterback dads saying, "Hey, my kid is just like him. See, he's 5'10", I'm 5'10", we're the same." I remember one year there was like 4 DBs who made the Pro Bowl that were all under 6 feet, because we preach length for corners, right?
Right.
And length doesn't just mean your height; it's your arm length. And so there was like 4 DBs, I think 3 corners and 1 safety, they were like 5'10", 5'11". And so some coach said, see, it doesn't matter how big you are, it's the dog in the fight. And then you had so that just had this huge spread of all these kids saying, yeah, see, I'm 5'9", and he's 5'9". And so I knew all 4 of those DBs. And so I finally, they always tag me, right? They'll tag me, hey, Greg Biggins, see that? And I'm like, okay, whatever. I go,
Middle finger emoji.
Finally, I'm like, okay, I got time today.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let's look at this. So
Let's break down each guy just so you know.
That's what I did. I go, you're comparing yourself because he's 5'10", you're 5'10", so in your eyes, you're the same. Okay, that first guy was a 25-foot long jumper in high school. Okay, this other guy, corner, ran 10.5. This other guy was an all-state basketball player, and this other guy also was a track guy. He had like a 21 flat, 200 meters. Okay, none of you guys play sports outside of football. None of you guys can run like those guys. None of you guys have any kind of multi-sport background. And by the way, these guys are also way better in football than you are. But hey, you're the same size. So therefore, you can be a Pro Bowler because they are. Right. But it's like you can't find the little common denominator and say, okay, well, I'm just like him. Athletically, you're not even in the same ballpark, right? And all these guys are 5'10", but I knew at least 2 of them had like 33-inch arms, which is, again, if you're a corner, it's all about your arm length, jamming and being able to run and hustle, the hand fighting. You have like probably 28-inch arms. You're a small-framed kid. These guys maybe had the same height, but they're still much longer, bigger framed, more physical. And by the way, athletically, it's a different ballpark. And so I get that all the time too.
Speaking of guys that don't necessarily have the 5-star, 4-star size, I got 3 former guys. Again, they weren't the biggest. Troy Fletcher was a 2-star guy. He's only 5'9", 170, but he's playing at San Luis Obispo.
Yep.
Josiah Lamarque, again, not a big guy, only 5'11", but he's playing football at the next level. And then, of course, Makai Lemon, only 5'11", 190. He's one of the top college players in the country.
Yeah.
So, it's nice if you're tall, it's nice if you have all those things, but if you're one of those guys, don't get discouraged by that. If you're dominating the stats and you are a playmaker, and every time I'm watching Huddle, you're doing something, you can go that route too.
Yeah,
so
and 5'11" isn't small for a wide receiver, right? When I saw Makai Lemon and another guy, I've been tracking since middle school, went to La Mirada. I first thought he could be, I thought he was even a better corner than he was a receiver, but Here's a guy, explosive athletically, complete dog mentality, tough, physical, blocker. Yep. I've kind of compared him to maybe a little twitchier Amon-Ra St. Brown, who, again, funny, Amon-Ra St. Brown, probably one of the 3 best receivers high school that I've ever seen. I've been doing this for a long time. Talking just how they did in high school, but he was a 4th-round pick, right? Because he couldn't run. I mean, he ran fast enough to get open, but he wasn't going to wow you with his 40 times. I think if they did a redraft, he would have been a 1st-rounder. I mean, he's about ready to sign, or maybe already did sign the most lucrative wide receiver contract in history. So
you talk about being a dog.
NFL guys miss too, because they sometimes, like, I get a week sometimes overrate traits. I think NFL overrates traits. If you would have saw Amon-Ra St. Brown at USC, he was dominant. No one ever covered him. He got open, but they thought other guys were faster and quicker. I say all that to say, Mekhi Lemon, he is a athletic, explosive guy who brings punt, kick return value. 5'11", 190. He's built like a rock. He can block. He runs after the catch. I think those are the things that you look for. And what, like, people will say, hey, what's the difference between a 3 and a 4-star? I think the 4-star is the guy. The 3-star makes the catch, and he'll get tackled. The 4-star makes the catch, makes 3 guys miss, and goes 60.
Yeah, you have to game plan.
You have to be a little different. Yeah, you have to double team the 4.
That game we saw Mekhi a couple years ago, there's an interception. And remember him running that guy down to make the tackle?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, if you would have watched Deshaun Jackson play in high school at Long Beach Poly, they played him at DB against LaSalle in the CF final, and just because he could, he took 150 yards back, interception return for a touchdown. Yeah. Deshaun was like, every time he caught the ball, you thought he might make 8 guys miss and go 90.
Right.
That's hard to do.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't have rankings back then, but if we did, he would have been an easy 5, because he was that guy that you would have had to put 2 or 3 guys on him, and he was special, he was different, he was unique. He didn't just catch the ball and get tackled. He didn't get a first down. It was big play after big play. Same thing. You're looking at defensive linemen. What's the difference between this guy and this guy? Okay, this guy will beat his block and maybe make a tackle for loss. This guy does it every play, and he can beat the quarterback consistently. You need to double him. Right. Mason Graham playing high school football, you needed to double team. And by the way, he was an unreal left tackle too, playing with Noah Fafita at Servite. Never left the field. Those guys they're a little bit different. They're a little special. So looking for different traits that kind of make you stand out.
Like that receiver that you can bracket them, play cloud coverage, doesn't matter. They're still
doesn't matter. Yeah, T-Mac, you couldn't cover him. You could bracket him, but he's 6'4" and can jump out of the gym, and great timing because the volleyball. You could do whatever you wanted to do. I always say, if you're a really good receiver, even when you're covered, you're open. Because T-Mac just had those ball skills and those ball traits that just stood out.
Just when that ball's in the air.
Oh, yeah.
The last guy I wanted to ask you about, or not guy, but just kids in general, is the GPA guys. Mm-hmm. Jackson Rambo Ringer of Los Alamitos, he's got a 4.4 GPA, got 3 5s on his AP.
Sheesh.
He's not necessarily a Texas or an Ohio State guy, but he's going to play at the next level.
Yeah.
So what is the value of good grades? Because even if you're not going to get into the Notre Dames or the Georgias, if you're a 4.0 plus, you can play football on a scholarship at an Ivy League school.
It's like 2 of my GPAs combined right there back when I was in high school, right?
I think a 4.4 with 3 5s on the AP exams.
I always say this. If you're not going to be an NFL guy, which no one is, very few, right? Ivy League is the best thing you can do. I mean, how do you beat that, right? You're set for life if you go to Cornell or Harvard, Princeton, whatever. And here's the thing: if you're a late developing player and you do go to Ivy League, the last few years with the portal, we're seeing guys leave Ivy League to go to Power 4 schools. It's happening. Like, I think there was a kid. Again, the name is escaping me, but he was from Princeton. I think he was drafted in the 2nd, 3rd round. He's a receiver a few years ago. So you can still play big-time football wherever you're at, even if it's an Ivy League. Just understand, coming out of high school, if that was your offers, there was probably a reason why. Maybe you kind of just lacked, some of the high-end traits. Maybe you weren't physically developed yet. And you see some guys go to college, all of a sudden they grow 5 inches, put on 40 pounds.
I can't control my height, my weight, my speed, but I can control my grades. So if you're one of those guys who wants to play like Ivy League football, you can control how you do in the classroom. And if you really apply yourself that way, that might be the other ticket to playing the next
Grades
level.
always matter, and I always say this. A lot of schools, even if you meet the minimum, some schools, obviously we call them kind of some renegade schools could care less about your grades. But other schools are big time, they do care. And like UCLA or Stanford, it's not just enough to meet the minimum requirement. They want to know if he's on campus, will he survive in this environment?
Right.
So you could meet the minimum and you could qualify for those schools, but they'll still not clear you through admissions because they want to make sure, hey, this kid's going to flunk out within a year. So grades matter in a big way. It just gives you so many more opportunities. Some schools, like back in the day, SAT mattered. Now you don't need to do it. Right. But grades still are super, super important. Open up all kinds of doors and options for you.
Last one. I have to throw CDM a bone. The Annette brothers. Well, first of all, they have the Garbers. Both those guys are CDM guys.
Yeah.
Who both played college ball. Now you got the Annettes.
Yeah.
Do you get that a lot? Like brothers who are both, star
we
guys?
Do. And honestly, like part of our evaluation, it's not a 100% foolproof, but like gene pool matters. So when we have our little meetings that we go over for 2 hours, and I mentioned we look at a lot of tape, so I just want to emphasize production matters, tape matters, but we'll look at the traits, look at the multi-sport, we look at family tree.
Dorset Stecker, his dad was a running back in the NFL. And I don't know if he's a star guy or not.
He's good. No, he is. He should be at least.
But it's
he
in the
killed
blood.
It. Yeah. No. Again, I covered Joe Montana and John Elway's kids who weren't very good in football, so it's not foolproof because those two guys were pretty good. I covered Wayne Gretzky's kid, who wasn't bad.
Dick Butkus's kid.
Yeah. So it's not 100%. It's not. There we go. It's not 100%. But it does. I think bloodlines do matter in a lot of ways, and so we have a little list, and we'll put mom, dad did this, aunt, uncle did this, older brother played here.
A small part of the.
So
big
it's
process.
all part. It's
comes to
McCaffrey.
mind.
It's all part. But ironically, McCaffrey was awesome. He had an
Mom
older brother.
was a stud soccer
Mom was
player.
A stud.
Yeah.
He had an older brother who signed with Michigan who wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. But the McCaffrey name actually helped him, but he was never, Christian was always a freak.
Right.
Watching him play at the high school level.
The Watt brothers.
Both those two kids are awesome kids too.
Yeah.
Obviously I knew Caleb a lot more.
Right.
And he was a guy who, he came after Garbers and, really good high school player.
Yeah.
Saw Brady at the Edison tournament where he got them
They
to
had a nice run. They made the semis.
Made the semis,
Yeah,
and
they did good.
he kind of we rated him right after that tournament because I had a chance to see him with my eyes, and I go, yeah, this guy can play. So CDM does a great job with quarterbacks. It's a great staff, and they do a really good job.
So 2-part question. You've seen a lot of football. What high school games come to mind when you think like the all-time games? And if you had a Mount Rushmore of high school football players, who would you have on that?
So the two games jump to mind. One of them, I was at both of them.
Everybody was.
The first, everyone was, right?
The Tustin, Santa Margarita,
Tustin,
right?
I promise to you I was at that game. I was at that game. Ironically,
Palmer.
I was working at Student Sports, and we did the football game of the week for Fox, and Tustin didn't want to do the game because the year before, Santa Margarita kind of pouted them a little bit. So they kind of said that was going to be the game of the week the following year, and they said, no, we're good. Yeah. Ended up being maybe one of the greatest high school games, just back and forth, and you're watching Carson Palmer and watching Deshaun Foster, and you're going, okay.
Who are two phenomenal college athletes.
You can make a case, like, for me, if I were to do, like, I've been doing this almost 30 years, like 95 is when I started. Okay. Not good in math, but it's around 30, right?
Close enough.
I mentioned the GPA.
Yeah, right.
But Deshaun Foster, I would put Deshaun in one of the top 3 running backs I've ever seen from California, and Carson the top 3 quarterback I've ever seen from California. And even if you weren't, again, I'm not saying I'm anyone important, but if you weren't a scout and you watched those two guys, they just jumped off the field. Deshaun was 6'1", 215, and fast and strong and tough. He had a wiggle. He ran physically between the tackles. He could bounce it outside. Carson threw the ball like an NFL guy in high school. I mean, he roped it, tight ball every time, touch, accuracy, he's throwing it early, big, strong, looked like a Greek god. And what Santa Margarita did, they were smart. Deshaun also played corner. And so I forgot who the SM coach was, really good coach, ended up coming back to Santa Margarita. Hardigan.
Was it him?
It was Hardigan.
Oh, it was Hardigan.
Whoever Deshaun was covering, he would have that receiver just run streak routes. And so, not to throw him the ball, but just to try to gas Deshaun. Yep. So Deshaun's having a cover, and then he's coming in, he's playing running back, and they ran that wing tee, so there's already like 12 guys in the box trying to stop Deshaun. But that was it. And then the second game I was actually on the broadcast. I don't know if it was Fox or Bally at the time, but it was St. John Bosco, Mater Dei. I want to say it was 2019. And it was the Bryce Young, DJ Uyunglele game. Mm-hmm. And it was, Mater Dei had won 2 years in a row. And this was going to be like Bryce's, hey,
Swan song.
Yeah. And they're up 28-5, and Mater Dei's just all over them. And then Bosco comes back and scores like 5 straight touchdowns second half. They end up winning. And I remember in the booth, literally saying, "I'm nervous right now," because it was one of those games where you're like, it's so Maure got the ball to the 11-yard line, about ready to punch it in, and everybody knew they're going to score.
Yeah.
Even Maure Bosco people would say, dude, they were saying, hey, let them score so we have enough time to do so. Because Bryce was that clutch. He was that much.
Last team with the ball is going to win.
Right? And especially when it's Bryce Young.
Yeah.
And get to the 11-yard line, and it's like 30 seconds left, and all of a sudden Bryce gets hit, sack, fumble, Bosco recovers it, and Bosco wins. And it was one of those games where it's just like so many twists and turns, and you're watching these two generational quarterbacks who at that time were 1 and 2 in the country in the same league. Bosco and Maure were 1 and 2 in the country, so it was the top 2 teams, the top 2 players.
There's so much on the line.
Those 2 teams hate each other.
Right.
Maure had won 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
It's like Shakespearean theater.
It was one of those deals. Bosco really needed that one. Jason Negro really needed that one, and them getting it. So those are the 2 best games I've ever seen.
All right.
So one last question for
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much for joining us today. What is the best thing about your job? You've been giving us such great insight, but on a personal level, why do you love your job so much? What's the best part about it?
I mean, I'm dressed like this. I'm talking football with you. You get to travel all over the country, looking at high school football players and talking about college football recruiting. And, I work from home. I don't have to go into an office. I see my family, my kids growing up. And I've always said this, whatever your job is, my faith is super important to me. And whatever your job is, it's a ministry. And I have an awesome opportunity to impact kids' lives, right?
Your biblical quote is Joshua 1:9.
Go for it, yeah.
Okay.
Love
it.
I thought you were going to quote it right now. I don't want to put you I've been put on the spot the whole time. I'm putting you on the spot. No, so it's an opportunity to literally change people's lives. And I don't take that for granted. And I've had people tell me, dude, after you wrote an article on my son, he had like 3 colleges call him up. And it's all because of you. And so when I started working at Student Sports back in 95, 96, my boss, Andy Bark, he said, hey, our business is changing kids' lives. That's what it was. It wasn't, you want to be profitable and end up working out that way. But we did camps in South Central. We did camps at L.A. Jefferson High School and at Crenshaw and not the nicest places, but we wanted to go try to impact places where those guys didn't have a great opportunity to be seen a lot of the time. And so we would do camps. We go to, Chicago and do camps. Maybe not the best places, but they were great football. It was an opportunity, and Nike was always behind it to try to elevate people's lives. And so for me to this day, if I still check in on people that I covered years ago just to see how they're doing and get to know some of these kids and families, and it's really cool. And so, I always just try to be that great witness and that great testimony and just be like, hey, God has been good to me. If you can give it back to them and
God is great.
God is great all the time.
awesome.
So that's a big part of why I love it. Yeah, awesome opportunity.
Well, listen, to say we appreciate you coming in is an understatement. We
Yeah.
really do appreciate you coming back in. We're going to be following this year. Where can students follow you on your social medias? Or
Yeah. Twitter is just at Greg Biggins.
Okay.
I keep it simple.
Yeah.
And that's probably
That's the main one.
Yeah.
Okay.
No one wants to follow my Instagram. That's more family stuff. I don't do a lot of work-related stuff.
Sure.
It's unless you want to see, concerts that I go to or taking a family photo. That probably bores people. But from a football standpoint, it's mostly just Twitter.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to be following you this year. Thanks again for coming
Thank you
in.
so much,
Absolutely.
Greg.
It was fun.
An
Any
honor
parting
and a privilege. Hey, thank you to our wonderful crew here at Sunset Rewind. And Greg, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Wish you all the best. God bless you.
Appreciate
One
that.
last thing. If you want to get a 5-star rating, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see what I can do for you.
There you go. Remember to like and follow us on YouTube. Remember to tune in to Sunset Rewind on social media. Taryn does a great job of promoting everything. We appreciate that, Taryn. You're the best.
We're also on TikTok, by the way, at
There you go.
@sunset_rewind.
So we'll have another episode for you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. Take care, and God bless.